can we get advice from God? That's what we're talking about on this week's Hope Kids Online. Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Hope Kids Online. We're so glad that you decided to join us today. We got a lot of great things planned. Justin,
What?
are you ready?
For what?
It's the final week of Never Too Young.
What?
Yeah, we're already there.
It's ending?
Yeah, it's ending. We got a whole new thing starting next week.
Are we now old?
No, we're not. You're still too young.
Oh.
But you know what? You're never too young. So, and that's actually what we're talking about today is we're talking about where do we get advice? It says, I will listen and obey to godly advice. So let me ask you this question, and you can put it right down in the comments, boys and girls. Where do you go to get godly advice? Where do you go?
I usually go to my best friend, Mark.
Oh, that's good. You know, I have a couple mentors in my life, and I call them up and say, hey, what do you think about this or that? And they give me great advice for where I should go and what I should do. So,
That sounds great.
It's awesome. You know, godly advice is so good. And today we're learning about a child king.
What?
Yeah, a child king. Could you imagine being king at 7?
What?
Yeah, at 7. There's actually a kid in the Bible who becomes king at 7. And fun fact, when I was 7, I actually did a play about this king who was 7, and I played the priest. So that's what I actually played an old man while I was 7. But anyway, it was fun. So and so I can just think about that. Being 7 and being a king, that's amazing. But that's what today's Potato Head Theater is about. That's what our whole lesson is about. It's about turning to others to look for godly advice. Because if you're 7, you don't know much about the world.
If he didn't have good godly advice, that would kind of be scary.
Yeah, it would. And it must have been for the people. But thank goodness for those people. So we'll be right back in just a few minutes. Stay here.
And I'm Jordan. Welcome back to this series called Never Too Young.
Have you ever gotten some advice and you just didn't listen?
Yeah, I have. So this one time, I went to the zoo with my mom, and she told me not to throw any food at the monkeys. But I didn't listen. And just out of nowhere, this mama gorilla came up and snatched me like I was her baby. I had to wear banana diapers for 3 weeks.
That was an interesting story. But I'm talking about godly advice from adults who are wanting to help you grow.
Oh yeah, it's always good to listen to godly advice because, after all, we don't know everything.
Exactly. Well, we want you to meet a man who learned that it's very important to listen to the adults God's put in your life. Godly advice can prevent a lot of pain and trouble.
So who's this guy we're going to meet?
He's actually a missionary from the continent of Africa. He lives in a country where it's illegal to tell others about Jesus, so he can't show you his face or his real name, but we will call him John. Check it out!
Well, you know, I grew up in church as a young boy, and my parents were godly parents, and they took me to church every single week. Every time the doors were open, I was there, and I didn't want to be there, you know. You could tell that I had a bad attitude. I wanted to do my own thing. I didn't want to be around church people. And my leaders, they tried to spend time with me and help me, my pastors and leaders. And, you know, they try to give me advice, and I would think, well, I'm not listening to you. You're trying to stomp on my rights, and you're trying to keep me from doing what I want to do. You know, I thought, well, you're not my mom, you're not my dad, I don't have to listen to you. And I tell you, it was really a very destructive mindset that got me into a lot of trouble. And there was a period of not one day or week, but really a couple of months where God was dealing with me and that attitude in my life. And I just prayed, God, change me and take this bad attitude away from me. I don't know where this rebellion or this aggression is coming from, Lord, but just change me. And I tell you what, I could feel the difference in my life at that very point. And as I began to listen to my parents a lot more and my leaders and my pastors a lot more, and God just began to change me. He took that rebellious boy that I was and turned him into the man I am now. And I'm now a missionary in a country in Africa where it's illegal to tell others about Jesus. You know, I could be put in jail or even killed if I'm caught telling others about God. But I do it anyway because God has changed my heart. I'm so thankful for the change that God made in me and the fact that He allowed me to start listening to the godly advice of my leaders. And I cannot wait to see how many people come to know Jesus as a result of all that change.
Wow, just think, if he hadn't have listened to the godly advice, many people in Africa would have never have heard about Jesus.
That's true. It's not always easy, but it's very important to listen to the godly advice of our leaders.
So, are we going to learn about someone in the Bible who did the same thing?
We sure are. We're going to learn about a boy named Joash, who became king when he was only 7 years old.
7 years old? I have a half-eaten candy bar in my room older than that.
Ew, that's nice to know. Anyway, Joash quickly learned the lesson that we need to learn, to always listen to our leaders. Until next time, this is Elliot.
And Jordan, reminding you that when it comes to doing big things for God, you are
Never too young.
All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Potato Head Theater. Today's story comes to us from 2 Kings chapter 11 through 12. Today we're going to hear an incredible story of survival straight from the Bible. In 2 Kings chapter 11, we find the story of a woman named Athaliah.
Hi everyone, I am Athaliah. I am the Queen Mother, and I am so proud of my son.
She was an evil woman who was the mother of the king of Judah. When she heard that her son had died, she decided she wanted to be queen.
Queen, I want to let you know that your son, he's died.
What? Oh, that is so sad. But now I get to be queen. This is so amazing.
The only way that could happen is if the rest of the royal family was dead.
Queen, you can't be queen yet. There's still a whole bunch of the royal family, and you'd have to kill all of them in order to be queen.
You know, that sounds like a wonderful idea. Go ahead, make that happen.
She found some people who were willing to do just that. She had the entire royal family killed.
So you're telling me you want me to go kill all of the royal family?
Yes, that's what I just said. Go ahead and do that.
It's kind of harsh, but okay.
But there was one thing she didn't know. The king's daughter took the king's very young baby boy, Joash, and hid him and his nurse in the temple far away from the evil Athaliah.
Come on, Joash. You're just a baby. Come on, we gotta get away from the evil Queen Athaliah before she kills us all.
Athaliah never even knew that Joash existed. 7 years passed, and Joash grew to be a fine young boy. It was time for the priest Jehoiada to reveal Joash to the people of Judah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Joash. I think I used to be part of the royal family, but I'm just not sure.
Joash, I am the priest Jehoiada, and you must come with me. You don't know this, but you are the next king of Judah.
What?
Jehoiada brought Joash out for the people to see that there was indeed a young prince that had escaped Athaliah's attempt to kill the royal family.
Good people of Judah, you need to understand. Athaliah did not destroy all of the royal family. She missed one. I give you Joash!
Jehoiada placed the royal crown on the head of Joash, declaring him as king at the tender age of 7.
I crown you King of Judah.
Gosh, I'm only 7. I hope I can live up to the task that you have placed upon me.
I know you can do it, Joash, because God has chosen you.
Queen Athaliah was not happy about this at all.
What in the world is going on? What? They made him king? Don't they know that I'm the queen? How dare they do this without telling me about it?
Even though she tried to stop it, she was dragged out of the temple and put to death.
No!
Joash was now the one true king.
You know, I really would have loved to know my grandmother, but she looks to be really evil. I'm glad that now I'm the king. I don't have to worry about her anymore.
You and me both, son. Put your crown back on.
Yes, sir.
Joash was only 7. He didn't know how to be a king over an entire country. He made a wise decision and listened to the godly advice of Jehoiada the priest.
You know, Jehoiada, I think I'm gonna need your wisdom and your guidance to figure out what to do to lead this country. You know, I'm only 7 and I don't really know what's going on.
That's a wise decision, son.
He raised money to rebuild and renovate the temple, along with many other wonderful things.
You know, I think one of the first things we're gonna do is we're gonna rebuild God's house so he can live there and we can all worship him together.
That sounds like an excellent idea.
The Bible says in 2 Kings chapter 12, verse 2, all his life Joash did what was pleasing in the Lord's sight, because Jehoiada the priest instructed him.
You know, Joash, if you continue to follow the Lord like this, he will richly bless you.
Thanks for the wise advice, Jehoiada.
All right, guys, thank you for joining us on another episode of Potato Head Theater.
Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Today we learned about a young boy named Joash who became king at the age of 7. 7. Could you imagine? How many of you are 7 right now? Why don't you put that in the comments? If you're 7, raise your hand, put it in that little hand emoji. Like, if you're 7 years old, could you imagine being king? But that's exactly where Joash found himself in our story today, is that he was 7 years old and all of a sudden he is in charge of an entire kingdom. That's crazy. What did Joash do? How did he get through that trying time? How did he become one of the greatest kings that Judah had ever known? Well, here's one thing that Joash understood about himself, and he asked, is that he said, I don't know everything. Joash knew that even though he was 7 years old, he didn't know everything. There was still so much more he needed to know in his life. And sometimes in our lives, we need to admit the same thing, that we don't know everything, because we don't. We literally can't know everything. Now, you can know a lot, but you can't know everything. And so we have to be willing to do the second thing that Joash did, and that is to ask for godly advice. That's what Joash did. He asked for godly advice. He went to the priest Jehoiada and he said, I need you to guide me. I need you to show me where to go and what to do. I need you to teach me. And Jehoiada gladly did it. And then Joash was known as a person who followed God for his entire life. You see, one thing that Joash didn't have, or he didn't show in the story, is that he didn't have pride. Pride is believing that we know everything and that we don't need the advice of others. And that can cause a huge problem. That's why we learned in our power verse today, it says, pride leads to conflict. Another version even says that pride comes before the fall. So to help you understand what I'm talking about, let me show it to you. So let's imagine this jar right here is you. That this is everything. And then what's inside of this is all of your knowledge. Now, are you full of knowledge? No, there's still plenty of space in here. But if we are full of pride, if we say that, well, I know everything, I don't need to know anything, and we don't listen to others, well, watch what happens. If we let's imagine that all of these ping pong balls and golf balls, let's imagine that each one of this is knowledge of people, our parents, our teachers, our pastors, our leaders, our small group leaders. They are all trying to give us advice, godly advice, worldly advice. They're trying to tell us what to do and what we should know so we can grow up. But as they keep giving us more and more advice, we're full. And we have all this more advice here that we don't have room for. So what are we supposed to do? Well, we're going to take a break for a quick second. We'll be right back, and I'm going to reset this, and I'll show you what it is. Okay, so now we've reset the whole shot. We've reset this jar, and now let's pretend that we actually got rid of all of our pride, and we are now ready to have the knowledge of the people around us. So instead of starting with all the popcorn kernels, we're actually going to start with all the ping pong balls and see how many of these we can get in here. Hopefully, all of them. We're already past how many ping pong balls we got in last time, and I still have a whole lot more. Here we go, last 2. See, I got 2 more. I got all of my ping pong balls in there. But wait a minute, what about everything that you know? What about all the stuff that you know? Well, here it is right here. Let's watch what happens when I pour it in. Are we gonna have enough room for everything? I don't know. It's filling up, but I still have more room. I still have more room. Even though I'm running out of this space, I still have more room. I'm still not full. Do you think I could fit more in here? Well, I have a whole nother cup more. Let's see how much more we can fit in here. Look at that. We got all of the ping pong balls and all the popcorn in the same jar. Something that looked entirely impossible just a few minutes ago is now possible. We see it right here. Isn't this amazing? You see, pride does this to us. If we let pride inside our lives and say that we know everything and we don't need godly advice, then we don't have room. But if we take pride out of our lives, if we surrender ourselves to the people who are trying to teach us, to the people who are trying to give us godly advice, we can get so much more. We can fill in all of the gaps with all of the knowledge. You see, if we listen to God, if we listen to godly advice, God will be pleased. That's what happened to Joash. God was pleased that Joash listened to the priest, Jehoiada, and he listened to godly advice and he followed all the instructions of Jehoiada, all the instructions of that priest. See, if we follow all the instructions of our parents, our teachers, our pastors, our small group leaders, our coaches, if we listen to the advice that they give us, God will be pleased because we'll be following Him with all our hearts, soul, minds, and strengths. Let me pray for you right now. God, thank you so much. Thank you so much that you give us godly leaders. You give us people who follow you. Put them in our lives that show us the direction that we should go. I pray that you help each one of us to follow your advice, to follow the advice of the people that you have placed in our lives, to know which way to go, that we say no to pride, that we humble ourselves, that we understand that we don't know everything and that we need advice from others. God, thank you so much that you bless us when we follow you and you are proud of us. Thank you so much. In your name we pray. Amen. You know, one of the things that we can always trust God with is that He is faithful. God is always faithful, and He's always faithful to be there with us and to send people to help us out at the right time. Even though things may look very bad, He's right there beside us. Let's sing this together. You are faithful.
Plans for me are good. You hold my future. You're working all the time. You're the mountain mover. From sunrise to sunset, till the sun comes back up again. You're by my side. You started a good work in me. I know that you will complete it. You will see it through. Yeah, I know that you're still working on me. And everything that you say you'll do, 'cause I believe that you are faithful, oh, you are faithful, oh, you are faithful. I'll trust your every word, 'cause I believe that you're working for my good. Yes, you're committed. From sunrise to sunset, till the sun comes back up again, you're by my side. You started a good work in me. I know that you will complete it. You will see see it through, yeah. I know that you're still working on me, and everything that you say you'll do, 'cause I believe that you are faithful, oh, you are faithful, oh, you are faithful. You are my hope, you are my future, you are the mountain mover, you are faithful. You are my hope, you are my future, you are the mountain mover, you are faithful. You started a good work in me, I know that you will complete it, you will see it through, yeah. I know that you're still working on me, and everything that you say you'll do, 'cause I believe that you are faithful, oh, you are faithful, you are faithful, oh, you are faithful, oh, you are faithful, oh, you are faithful.
Thank you so much for joining us in this week's Hope Kids Online. You know, Justin, I've really enjoyed this Never Too Young series.
Oh, I love the very concept of this series. It allowing the kids to see in the Bible how God can use anybody, even if they think they're very, very young.
Yeah, and we totally learned that in today's lesson with a 7-year-old king. It's a 7-year-old kid, but that means you're never too young even to teach and to help and lead and stand up for others and speak up for what's right and all those things we've learned over the past 6 weeks. And hey, if you missed this, if this is just the one you've watched, you can go back. We have these available on Facebook and YouTube, and you can check all of those out. So hey, VBS. VBS is coming. It's going to be June 21st through the 25th.
Yes.
June, and it's going to be at night from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. Registration is now open. It's for kids ages 3 to entering 6th grade, because I know a lot of kids and some kids in our town are actually graduating, or the school year ends this week.
Oh, wow.
Or not this week, but next week. But just because you're in 6th grade doesn't mean you still can't do some kid stuff. So like VBS. So we want to register. It's going to be a ton of fun. We're going to have a lot of great time. So that's all we have for you. We will see you back next week. If to find out more information on all the things we talked about today, and to even find some of our services, all you have to go to is www.churchofhope.com/kids, and make sure to like, follow, or subscribe wherever you're watching this so you can get more information and more of this great content that we put out all throughout the week. See you soon.
Bye.